Does that convince you now, Kristoph? Well, it's been a while, Phoenix, right? So I don't really have any sort of clue whatsoever what I'm being convinced of. So we're gonna find out together, you and I, right here, right now. I've truly hit rock bottom here. Did everything I know or could as a lawyer. Pointing out contradictions, using logic, preparing evidence to tip the case in my favor. My last-ditch attempt at creating a counter-theory, it all ended in failure. I even bluffed during it all. Used every trick in the book, and it still wasn't enough. Do I still not know what it means to make a successful bluff? I thought Wraith said it meant you had to pursue a point despite not knowing where it would lead to. Isn't that what I'm doing now? So why isn't it working anymore? It's the good intentions. I believe this evidence sufficiently proved Mr. Wright couldn't have been the culprit. Mr. Gavin, are you satisfied as well? I have to make an objection, but there's nothing left I can use. My last hope was crushed by this accursed video footage. Why do I feel that there are some things wrong with it, however? Thunk. Phoenix, oh yeah, the video footage. Let's review that. Makes Larry enter the staff lounge. Victim cries for help behind the vault door window. Larry runs ahead and then tries the vault door, unable to open it. Phoenix follows and tries the vault door, unable to open it. Victim is stabbed in the back with a knife. Phoenix suggests to call the police. Larry reports at the landline office in the offices. Landline office in the office is broken. Phoenix heads for the main hall. Phoenix calls the police with a payphone. Thunk. How do you get blood on his head? I'm being stabbed in the back. That feels like a detail that might be important. Something about this video and what Wright's been saying is just not adding up. I can't put my finger on what exactly it is. Am I really considering to pursue something based on some irrational feeling I'm having? It's not exactly anything concrete, such as a logical line of thought. Even something trustworthy like a solid piece of evidence to go on. At the same time, I truly have nothing else left but this stray hunch, do I? Well, fine then. If I'm going down anyway, then at least I want to get to the bottom of this. First, I'll have to maneuver my way out of this current predicament. I just know how. All I have to do is use one of my old tactics in extending a cross-examination. Your Honor, I request to continue my cross-examination of Mr. Wright's testimony. I see no reason to, Mr. Gavin. There is no more reason to suspect Mr. Wright of the crime, after all. Now, Your Honor. You had said that you had put the cross-examination on hold. Oh, means I still have the right to finish it. There would be absolutely no point in that, Mr. Gavin. We've wasted enough time today already. There's nothing in Mr. Wright's testimony that changes anything we've learned just now. I beg to differ. The information we've just learned has only given me more reasons to question him. Seriously, even after all we know now, you're still suspecting me. I expected more trust from one of my friends. As I sometimes say, what is trust without doubt, right? I think we both know that in the pursuit for truth, we must set our biases aside, even for friends. Doesn't feel like what you're doing here to me, Kristoph. This makes me think Edgeworth was right. If I didn't know you any better myself, I'd think you'd be out to get me too. Your Honor, your permission. I can promise it will be worth our time. I do suppose the regulations state that the defense is allowed to finish the cross-examination. But I must also say, Mr. Gavin, your credibility has dwindled immensely in the last half hour. We've given you a lot of leeway this entire trial due to the goodwill you've earned over the years. I'm still willing to give you the benefit of the doubt that you are onto something like usual as well. But I'm starting to feel now that even my patience with you has a reachable limit, Mr. Gavin. If it turns out you're leading us on and you do not produce any significant results before long, this trial will be over. Understood. Duly noted, Your Honor. Very good. We'll continue now with the cross-examination. Well, fine then. What can we gain from this? Went the main hall to use the payphone. It's actually... You know, Larry told us that.
Hold it!
Payphone. You're comfortable being Mr. Butts all by himself at the staff lounge, right? Not an unreasonable question, considering we're talking about Larry here, I guess. Security guard, probably okay. Guarding the vault door, make sure the killer wouldn't escape from there. Testimony is exceedingly strong. I now have a piece of evidence I can poke a hole into. With that, I hope I can hopefully show that Wright is trying to hide something here. Cries for help behind the vault door window. We have a few things here. We have Elflash's emails. We have a secret passage photo. And we have the hidden camera footage. A little refresher. Did I push the wrong thing? Landline phone? Curious. I'm gonna poke a hole in the point that we don't have you talking to Miss Toom on your hidden camera footage. Is that what we're gonna poke a hole in? That is, alright. Oh now, isn't that peculiar? I thought you said earlier that you recorded the unfolding events of that video camera, right? Same here. Is that what I showed the court earlier? You did look at the video, right? Perhaps you ought to look at the video once more yourself, particularly how it ends. Beep, beep, beep. 911, what's your emergency? Someone's been stabbed to death in Elflash Casino. Please send help. Understood. We'll dispatch a unit to your location immediately. Shouldn't the video be showing something else as well? Namely, where's Miss Toom, who's supposed to enter the main hall from the side hall? We don't even see the police arrive at the casino either. What is... Don't tell me that this video has been tampered with. I don't think that is the case, Your Honor. The video contains no unusual cuts or edits, and the recording came straight from the camera. In addition, Mr. Wright wouldn't even have had the time to tamper with the footage. Yesterday after the murder, he stayed the entire day at the casino, but while he was under police supervision. Yet even still, there was a clear contradiction with the recording and Mr. Wright's testimony. So how about an explanation for it, right? Alright, fine. I suppose I neglected to mention something earlier. At that particular point in the video, the recording had stopped. That's why there's no footage of Miss Tube with the police entering the main hall. Oh, I see. Did you stop the recording yourself? No. The camera simply ran out of storage space as I was filming. I've been making recordings like these every so often the last 7 years. So the storage getting full was bound to happen at some point, I guess. All recordings of our dinner parties and other meetings, no doubt. Then why did you not mention this before? Sorry about that. Guess I was afraid you'd interpret it wrong again if I did mention it. I'm acting so pushy and paranoid, thinking that I could be the killer after all. But right, this does mean you could have gone and used the secret passage after the murder, no? Yeah, sure. If you want to be pedantic about it, I'll admit I could have, then. Regardless, even though there is no video proof that I didn't go to the secret passage, I still maintain that I waited in the main hall the entire time before Miss Toom and the police came in. I see. Thank you for clarifying that, Wright. Pointing out that Wright still could have used the secret passage could come in useful later. I'm afraid this doesn't change anything at all about this case, Mr. Gavin. What's more, it would appear you've now run out of testimony to cross-examine. Looks like your attempt at stalling didn't do you any good. This ends your cross-examination. Oh, but you couldn't be more mistaken about that, my dear Mr. Edgeworth. There's yet more testimony left to cross-examine, and thus this trial cannot end till I've done so. What are you talking about? Call what happened right after Mr. Wright presented his video footage, if you will. What this evidence does underline is that the killer entered the vault through the secret passage and stabbed the victim. At the very moment I was in the staff lounge. To put it all together, the killer couldn't possibly have been me. Mr. Wright has elaborated on how he interpreted the video footage and how it proves he isn't the killer. Is that not testimony? The defense is allowed to cross-examine that. More abuse of the court regulations to stall even further, I see. Well, I share your sentiments and agree this is starting to look more and more like a stalling tactic. I do suppose Mr. Gavin is right. The defense is allowed to cross-examine that testimony. This is starting to get annoying, but fine. Is there something unclear about what I said back then? I would like you to elaborate further on it all. More specifically, just how does the video underline that the killer went through the secret passage to stab the victim? At the very moment you were in the staff lounge. That is a good point. How do you know that from just watching the video, Mr. Wright? That wasn't obvious for you all by simply watching the video? Right, please just explain it for us. It's important. It might just be what I need to see the truth behind this case. Alright. If it'll finally convince you of my innocence, then that's good enough for me, too. I have a feeling if we're examining the details of the video at long last, I have a feeling this might actually reveal the truth. Might actually do both of these things. I don't think Wright is actually the killer. This will be my final attempt to get through to you, Kristoph. If you're still not satisfied after this explanation, then I don't know what will. Phoenix's logic. Take yet another good look at the video footage. You can hear the victims say he was definitely alone inside the vault. That he was stabbed in the back and killed mere moments after that while talking to me. In other words, the killer only entered the vault right after I started talking to the victim. Then by going from what we know, the killer could only be one of two people. The killer was Miss Toom. She likely escaped the vault through the secret passage again after the kill. I suppose the killer was Miss Atal. She ended up getting stuck in the vault. Let me guess. I still have doubts somehow. I'm glad you know me so well, Wright. I do in fact wonder about the validity of your testimony. If you could just answer a few more questions I have about it, then that'd be perfect. You know, I really don't get how you can still question my innocence after all this. That video should already tell you that I couldn't possibly be the killer. Maybe you just need better glasses. But sure, go ahead then. I know my logic is sound. I can back it up with solid evidence to boot. The video. He's not wrong. I'd come to the same conclusion if I weren't in my current predicament. Still, I have a hunch that there is something off with Wraith's testimony. It's honestly foolish to pursue something on just gut feeling, but it's all I have anymore. Well, you may begin your cross-examination, Mr. Gavin. Alright. What exact part of it? All of it. In fact, I recommend you just watch the whole thing again, Kristoph. Maybe then it'll become obvious to you that suspecting me of this crime is just plain silly. Should I take him up his offer and watch the video? Alright, sure. Let's do it. Very well, if you don't mind, that is. Alrighty, make sure there's no what's being said as well this time. We can just watch it again. Oh, that's strange. Mr. Elflash doesn't seem to be in his office either. Any idea where else he could be? I guess he could be inside the... Is someone there? Help me! That sounds like Mr. Elflash. Came for the vault. You have to help him, Nick. Larry, hold up. We should stick close. Nick, come quick. Nick, Mr. Elflash is in the vault. Just try the door, but it won't open. What? Let me try, Larry. You're right, it won't budge. It must be locked. Help me! Someone just attacked me and they put me inside this thing. Who was it? Are they inside there with you? They attacked me from behind, so I didn't see. I'm definitely alone in here. Alright, let's see if we can get you out of there. Ah! I'm dead. Mr. Elflash, damn. Larry, kill the police, now. I've already tried, Nick. The phone's in here and the office not working. Dang it, okay. Guard the door. Try the payphone in the main hall then. Okay. Beep, beep, beep. 911, what's your emergency? Someone was stabbed to death at Elflash Casino. Please send help. Understood. Dispatch a unit to your location immediately. As far as you're concerned, I'm afraid it didn't. For starters, could you explain how this video underlines what you said earlier? Alright, I'll spell it out for you then. That's handy.
Hold it!
I suppose he did say that. Couldn't the victim have been mistaken? Must agree with Mr. Gavin on this front, actually. It's very dark inside the vault. The killer could have been lurking in a corner without the victim knowing. I guess that supports your initial theory against the defendant, Edgeworth, but it's highly unlikely. It'd be dark inside that vault, but I'm sure his victim would have checked his surroundings well. Especially if he was just attacked recently and unconscious at the time. I think we can trust his final words. However, if we go by the victim's words in the video footage, and your own theory of the victim locking himself up inside the vault wouldn't quite hold up either. After all, the victim can be heard saying that they put him inside the vault. That would imply him being inside the vault wasn't of his own volition. Huh, you're right. You suppose that's an odd choice of words for the victim to use there. That's what he meant with it, was that the killer essentially forced him into the vault with their attack? I guess that explanation is not too elegant, but I still think we can trust the victim's words. Regardless, there is one other factor that suggests he was in fact alone inside the vault. Let me clarify what by using the video footage.
Hold it!
So mean to say that somehow implies the killer wasn't inside the vault with the victim yet. Of course it does. Otherwise, why would the victim turn his back on his attacker for such a long time? Not to mention that the victim could have just escaped the vault with his key if the killer was there. I suppose that would be logical. Then I think we can safely conclude the victim was in there all alone, just like he said he was, yeah?
Hold it!
Can we really be certain that the victim died? Can you be certain the victim died then and there, however? This theory again. You can take it from me, Mr. Gavin. The victim's death was as good as instant. But the autopsy report doesn't state that. There may be a chance that. Which is why I'll pay a visit to the coroner later today to make that more clear in the report. Unbelievable. Got a lot of flack from the public 10 years ago for updating an autopsy report once. My God. I love that. And now that I haven't done it since, as I figured it was a bit too excessive, this happens. Not to worry, everyone. Video footage also clearly shows that the victim did indeed die when he witnessed the murder.
Hold it.
How can you ascertain that? How can you ascertain that the victim was truly dead from just looking at the footage? Could have simply fallen unconscious for the blood loss. Fair enough. I don't think I could check his pulse or anything with that locked vault door in the way. But judging from his scream, he only got stabbed the moment I saw him. So there's that, at least. I'd imagine someone who looks like that would only be seconds away from being dead anyway. What about the fact that he doesn't appear to be falling down upon being stabbed? He could have been leaning against the door like he argued earlier in the trial. I also didn't really point the camera at him for very long after he got stabbed, so... It's likely he fell down shortly afterwards anyway. We can agree that he's not moving and he has a bloody knife in his back, correct? And you can't give us anything more definitive than that. Mr. Gavin, if you really doubt the victim being dead immediately at that moment so much, you can always suspend the trial to confirm this for you. That is, if you let us. Oh, well... I'd first like to hear where Mr. Wright is going with all this. If you don't mind. Why am I not surprised? Please continue, Wright.
Hold it.
But that should mean the killer entered through the secret passage, correct? Exactly. How else would the killer have entered the vault? Me and Larry were in front of the vault door at the time, after all. Very well. Could the killer have entered the vault before you arrived at the staff lounge? The victim wasn't yet distracted by me and Larry being in front of the vault door before then, Kristoph. You see, before me and Larry were in the staff lounge talking to the victim, the victim would have still been paying attention to his surroundings inside the vault. And nothing else would have been distracting him at the time, of course. Otherwise, he would have noticed the secret passage opening in that case, don't you think? He'd then be able to see the killer enter the vault, giving him plenty of reason to get out of there. Which he'd easily be able to do through the vault door, considering he had the vault key on him and all. But since he was talking to us through the vault door window, he'd have his back turned on where the secret passage would be. Thus, he didn't see it open up. I think that's the reason the killer managed to get the victim by surprise in the end. I see. So when in the video do you suppose the killer would have entered the vault? That's a little hard to say, but must have been some time between the victim saying he was alone and when he got stabbed. Somewhere around here in the video, I guess?
Hold it.
Around this point in the video, so we have a clear still of the video. We can't see anyone entering through the secret passage or stabbing the victim on your camera. True, it was too dark in the vault to see behind the victim. And the victim himself is also blocking most of the view through the window for us. But how else can you explain that knife ending up in the victim's back? Someone must have entered through the secret passage to stab him.
Hold it.
And who do you have in mind for that? Miss True and Miss Atal, naturally. They're the only two people without an alibi at the time. What's more, they both also had direct access to the secret passage. Miss Toom said she went to the locker room, which is close by the side hall where the passage is. And Miss Atal was in the vault when the police arrived, so she must have used the passage at some point. Can you explain why you discount yourself and Mr. Butts as the potential killer? Because we both have an alibi when the murder occurred? I mean, even the video footage proves that beyond a shadow of a doubt. Just look at it. This is a new statement, too. And perhaps you can explain why it's so obvious to you. Are you deliberately trying to be this obtuse, Mr. Gavin? Simply use your eyes, for heaven's sake. I'd like to hear the words of the witness, if you don't mind, Mr. Edgeworth. Well, right. Larry and I were very clearly in the staff lounge, as you can see in the footage. We were standing in front of a locked door, looking at the victim through the vault door window. Then we see the victim get stabbed in the back, from an angle that was completely opposite of us to boot. How could either of us have been the one to kill the victim if we weren't even inside the vault? To be frank, we cannot see you appear anywhere in this video footage. Come on, Kristoph, don't give me that. You can clearly hear my voice in the video to know I was there. And Larry can confirm I was indeed there with him, too. Objection sustained. The defense will refrain from questioning the obvious. I apologize for that. Yet what else can I do here? I'm in no position to admit that Wright couldn't have done it. I have to try something here, don't I? Perhaps the witness can elaborate a bit on the two people who actually could be the killer then. Of course, Your Honor.
Hold it!
Well, the secret passage closes automatically after 10 seconds, does it not? Can we really be certain Miss Toom could have killed the victim and escaped the vault in that time? I don't see why not. Imagine she just entered the vault, stabbed the victim in the back, and get out again. Easily doable in 10 seconds if she had a knife at the ready before she opened the secret passage. However, you don't have any decisive proof that Miss Toom is the killer. Yeah, I guess not. But hey, to be fair, it's not my job to provide that. At least, not anymore. It's yours and Edgeworth's. I'm just lending a hand. Mr. Gavin does have somewhat of a point, however. The killer could also still be the defendant. That wasn't what I implied from that. Sure enough. Technically speaking, we can't rule out Miss Attal yet, either.
Hold it!
So you're also saying that Miss Attal still could have done the crime? I'm afraid that there's just no denying the possibility as of right now. So if she's the true killer, that it didn't happen according to the prosecution's old theory, at least. Maybe because the victim said he was alone inside the vault. Indeed. What then had to happen instead was that Miss Attal used the secret passage to enter the vault. Then stabbed the victim, with the passage door closed immediately afterward. Closed automatically before she could get out again. And she couldn't use the vault door to escape either, because even though the vault key was inside, Larry was guarding the door by then, who she no doubt could have seen through the door window. Thus making it impossible to escape that way without getting caught. Not bad, right? Perhaps I'll adopt this theory come tomorrow's trial. But I won't have to experience that one way or another. Even so, between Miss Attal and Miss Toom, I still believe Miss Toom is the true killer. Why is that, right? Because I do in fact have faith in your client's innocence, Kristoph. Perhaps you could in turn have some faith in your friends? I should focus on the testimony instead of responding to that. Wright seems to be really eager to explain his logic, while backing it up with his video evidence. He's quite determined for me to see things his way. To the point of him likely adding more statements to his testimony in order to clarify his stance. Yet that could leave some potential contradictions in his testimony as well. You should be careful, however. Too much pressing could blow up the testimony. And make it more difficult to find the contradiction I'm looking for. Fortunately, I think I already have. Comes to enter the vault through the secret passage. There's a thing about this which is odd. Because while I'm thinking about it, the implications of out of all the unscrupulous stuff that Edgeworth has done in the past, and this being the one time like, the one time that he ever updated an autopsy report in mid-trial, being in the red-white case, and just... He stopped doing it, not because it was unscrupulous, but because literally everyone, all of his colleagues, everyone at the prosecutor's office in criminal affairs just utterly clowned on him relentlessly for doing it. Hey, Mr. Edgeworth, update any autopsy reports lately? Hang on, let me update this for you. And it's just delightful. Anyways, what is so odd about this? If the secret passage is open, the secret passage is coming from a fully lit hallway.
Objection!
To think that a contradiction like this was right under our noses. Worthy bluff, Kristoph. You almost had me going there. Interesting. So you weren't even aware of it yourself? Aware of what? Just to be clear here. This is what you and your video camera saw at the time, correct? And you're saying that the killer entered the vault through this secret passage around this time. Sounds about right. Otherwise the victim wouldn't have said he was all alone in there before. After all, the killer entered the vault before me and Larry were talking to the victim. And the victim surely would have noticed the killer entering the vault through the secret passage. So you only conclude that while the victim was talking to me and Larry, the killer used the secret passage to get in the vault to kill the victim. Unfortunately, we can't see the killer enter the vault there in the background of the footage. Perhaps if it weren't so dark inside the vault, we'd have a glimpse of the killer on camera. Still, this is the only scenario that could have happened. Just as I thought. Right, I'm afraid that your proposed scenario is entirely impossible. We'd have seen something in the background if the secret passage truly did open in the video. I can prove it with this picture that the prosecution presented earlier. But what? Is this true, Mr. Gavin? Then I must ask you the following. What this picture would we have seen in the video if the secret passage opened? Let's point to the light. The lights, Mr. Gavin? Quite so, Your Honor. It's normally quite dark inside the vault. The only reason we can see the victim in the video here is because he was so close to the vault door, that light from the staff lounge shined on him. As you can see, beyond him, you won't be able to see much other than a shroud of darkness. Yet if the secret passage were to open, light from the side hall would seep into the vault as well. So if the secret passage did in fact open while the victim was talking to Mr. Wright, we'd see that light here. However, at no point do we ever see such a thing happen here on camera. You're right. Never noticed that before. What does this mean? I was under the impression that the only point in time the killer could have entered the vault was while the victim was talking to Mr. Wright. That still should be the case, all things considered. So what makes this so strange? I don't think that the victim would have said he was definitely alone if he was unsure about that. It's doubtful that the killer managed to enter the vault before I arrived at the staff lounge. If that had happened, the victim would have been able to notice the secret passage opening, which means he'd have no reason to stay inside the vault. Wright is not denying the contradiction? He tried to make himself look innocent here. You should have considered that before you thought you could crush me with that camera footage. But how can you explain this contradiction then, Wright? Your guess is as good as mine, I'm afraid. What we know, there should have been light visible in that vault when I looked through the window. Indeed, what a very peculiar contradiction with no sensible answers for it. If I don't give one for it, soon a suspension of the trial will be inevitable. You must not forget I have to explain this all in a way that Wright could be the killer to top it all off. Come on, think. What would I do to get out of this situation? What would Wright do? No, I cannot risk another bluff anymore. Not making a fool of myself with one last time. Well, it won't do us much good to ponder over something we cannot explain yet. But it might not even be important to the case. As such, I suggest we leave this for tomorrow after we've had some time to look into it further. I must agree. That's another day of investigation. We can reveal the answer to this anomaly. This then ends the cross-examination of Phoenix Wright. And therefore, today's proceedings. That's a lot of time. But, can this end now? Right, fine. Even though it hasn't been working out for me lately, I suppose off the bluff. Just have to give an answer on what this lack of light could all mean, even if I'm unsure about it. Also, if the answer might sound like complete nonsensical madness, if that's what it takes. Perhaps I go about it like I did when Miss Toom played silence, I can work out the answer. Hopefully it will all make sense later if I just go take the plunge and go in this direction for now.
Objection!
One moment, Your Honor. I do believe I know an explanation for this lack of light. It's something that could fundamentally change this case as we know it. We cannot leave this now. Not when we are so close to uncovering the truth. Really now. This again. Are you certain this is so important that I cannot wait until tomorrow, Mr. Gavin? I apologize that this trial has taken so long, Your Honor. As it turns out, this has been truly a mind-bendingly complicated and diabolical case. I can promise you that we're on the verge of seeing it all in a very new light.
Objection!
Your Honor, I cannot condone this any longer. It is abundantly clear that Mr. Gavin has only been trying to stall for time ever since recess. This explanation of his is likely no exception. I understand that's what it seems after some of my previous actions. However, save it, Mr. Gavin. I'm starting to suspect you want to impede on the prosecution's investigation time. You were accusing Mr. Wright to draw out today's trial as much as possible for that, weren't you? You were willing to destroy the life of an innocent friend of mine, all for a chance to win this case in the long term. Why should we indulge this any longer? Let him speak, Edgeworth. He was right about there being no light in the vault on camera, after all. Right, need I remind you? Mr. Gavin is vehemently insisting that you are the killer. And he is still wrong about that, of course. His passion is misguided there, at least. But I also do think that Kristoph went the same as us, the truth. And if Kristoph really can explain this contradiction, we can then in turn use the facts of that explanation to lay bare the real truth behind this case. Even Kristoph will then have to acknowledge he misinterpreted who the killer was. Besides, I now also want to resolve this case today, if possible. These unwarranted suspicions will otherwise just leave a bad mood in the air during our dinner tonight. I prefer to mend any of my friendships that have soured a bit as soon as I can. That is quite admirable of you, Mr. Wright. Why do you keep doing this emotional manipulation, Wright? It's aggravating. I'm trying to get rid of you here. Very well. We shall at least listen to what the defense has to say first, then. I sincerely hope you are truly onto something after all that has happened here, Mr. Gavin. Mustn't falter now, not after making it this far. Just focus. Also, I like this means of the, whatchamacallit. I like this means of the thought route. Just executed as in terms of a vocal deduction. It's like the perfect fusion of the Greatest Attorney deductions and the thought route from the 3DS. Apollo Justice Trilogy. Ba-dum-tsh. To put the issue plainly, if the killer used the secret passage to enter the vault to stab the victim, some light had to have been visible on camera while Mr. Wright looked through the window, yes? We look at the footage, we can see the interior of the vault remain dark at all times. Indeed. So we consider all the facts, we can draw the following conclusion from that. The reason the interior of the vault remained dark at that time was because the killer used a passage, didn't use a secret passage, caused a power outage. didn't use the secret passage. Never had to open the secret passage in order to stab the victim. Excuse me? Logically speaking, that's the only fitting scenario we can conclude here, isn't it? No light was visible inside the vault on camera, simply due to the secret passage never opening back then. Mr. Gavin, the killer couldn't have entered the vault out of thin air, could they? They had to have been inside the vault in order to stab the victim in the back, right? That is indeed what we assumed up to this point. A large keyhole you can see through. What if that's what the killer wanted us to think? What if the killer employed some sort of trick to hide the true nature of the crime? Something so wild that none of us could have imagined it. Dramatics? Are you suggesting there was a way for the killer to avoid using the secret passage, Mr. Gavin? Exactly. At least for the moment where the victim got stabbed, that is. It should be rather straightforward. Simply consider the following possibility. The killer didn't have to use the secret passage if the murder was done remotely? Remotely, accidentally, or supernaturally? Remotely. In other words, I can't believe I'm about to suggest this. The killer stabbed the victim without being in the vault themselves. Remote murder? Mr. Gavin, are you serious? I am, Your Honor. I know it sounds mad. This would explain why the victim said he was alone inside the vault. He truly was. Then somehow the killer managed to stab the victim without setting the foot inside the vault themselves. It's the only way this murder could have happened now. And then I can pin this crime on right. In fact, now that we know the secret passage didn't open during the exact moment of the crime... So I'm just looking at a second save of goodies here. I believe this murder was entirely possible to commit from the staff lounge. What? Ah, of course. How unsurprising. Still keen on insisting that Mr. Wright could have done it, I see. Would mean you'd otherwise have to admit your suspicions of him were unfounded after all. I hope you're not bluffing with a weak hand here, Kristoph. Because you've just locked yourself into this bet now by suggesting this. So, how would the killer be able to thrust a knife into the victim's back from the staff lounge? That'd be as good as impossible, isn't it? Well... How would he do it from there? He usually did remotely. Calm down, Kristoph. All I have to do is think of a way how Wright could have stabbed the victim. While clearly being in a different room, from the opposite angle, with the locked door in front of him. A cinch? No? What do I suggest here? It's going to sound insane, isn't it? Oh, Mr. Gavin, can you answer that question at all? Of course I can, Your Honor. When will this torment end? You actually intend to answer that? Someone please pass the popcorn already. Just trust the hunch you have, Kristoph. As I said, there was a way to stab the victim remotely. The way the killer managed to stab the victim was by making the knife get... Interesting choices here. Drop from the ceiling, push with it by some contraption, hold with a magnet. Don't really have any evidence of magnetic occurrences, so it's either one or two. I don't really know what could have triggered one, because my mind is stuck on the thought of what could have been triggered remotely here to actually perform the requisite actions here. So I'm going to say pushed by some contraption. Pushed by some contraption, perhaps. What do you mean by some contraption, Mr. Gavin? Well, as in, there could have been some appliance placed inside the vault. Something that could have thrust the knife into the victim's back automatically. How interesting, Mr. Gavin. Then could you tell us what this supposed murderous contraption would be? I was still getting to that part. What's this? Want to get over those creative ideas you've had before? for. I'm going to suggest that one of the springs launched the knife into the victim's back or something. Not that the springs were found would be able to do that due to their little resilience, of course. Don't mock me. I have enough pressure to deal with here. Regardless, even if there was some appliance placed in the vault that stabbed the victim remotely, would the victim also be aware of such a contraption while inside the vault? Then why choose to remain inside the vault with an obvious death trap set up in there? When he had the key to exit the vault with, would he even allow himself to stand in front of something like that when he has just attacked? Mr. Edgeworth raises some very good points. This theory of yours seems too implausible, Mr. Gavin. I do agree that this theory seems rather out there, and yet also feels like I'm on the path to the right answer this time. Despite all the complications and obstacles, a single way forward is also opening up. I have no idea where it will take me, but something about taking this route somehow feels natural. Hold on, Mr. Edgeworth. There may actually be a valid explanation for those points you brought up. I think that would cause the victim to remain inside the vault, even with some contraption there. Before you reuse Mr. Wright's old theory of the victim having locked himself inside the vault to protect himself from the killer, I'm afraid that's not good enough in the case of your theory. There'd be no reason to stay inside the vault with some supposed remote murder set up inside. But that wasn't what I was going to propose. No, there is something else that can explain it all. Namely, there was a certain oddity that I noticed in the video footage before. Oddity is quite apparent around here where Mr. Wright and Mr. Butt stood in front of the vault. Something very strange about the victim's actions here. I don't see the victim do anything strange given the situation he is in. I'm afraid you have to elaborate further, Mr. Gavin. Certainly, Your Honor. The strange thing that happened here was that the victim cried for help, died, didn't unlock the door. I feel like there's an obvious answer here, but obviously the weird thing here is the fact that the victim died. Died? Is that incredibly peculiar? In fact, how did that even happen if nobody else was in the vault? How could he be fine in one moment and have a knife in his back in the next? It doesn't make any sense. Yes, that's what we're trying to figure out here, Mr. Gavin. Okay. Did not unlock the door. If there's supposed to be something strange about that, think about it, Your Honor. Regardless of whether the killer was inside the vault with the victim or not, it can't be denied that the victim had the vault key when Mr. Wright and Mr. Butts arrived. Despite calling for help, the victim made no attempt to unlock the vault door himself. Are you about to suggest that the reason the victim didn't unlock the vault door was because he knew that Mr. Wright was the person who attacked him earlier? Actually, no. I highly doubt that the victim would have even asked for Mr. Wright's help if he knew that. The victim supposedly locked himself in the vault to protect him from someone who attacked him. And why stay inside the vault when help finally did arrive? Why not at least unlock the door so you can get the very help you're asking for? Judging with the footage, he had plenty of time to do that as well. Now that you mention it, that is a little strange, I guess. Why did the victim not do any of that? The only conclusion I can come to, Your Honor, is that the victim was unable to unlock the door somehow. What nonsense! The victim had the vault key on him, didn't he? So of course he could unlock the door. Well, what if he couldn't, even if he wanted to? How do you mean, Mr. Gavin? I'll tell you, Your Honor. The victim couldn't unlock the vault door because he was stuck, broke his leg, and was feeling lazy. Was feeling exceptionally lazy at the time. The victim was feeling lazy, despite him being distressed from getting attacked earlier. That is exactly my point, Your Honor. He had a very tiring and stressful day because of that. Who would then feel like exerting themselves by unlocking a heavy vault door after such an ordeal? This has got to be your laziest answer yet, Mr. Gavin. Boo! I thought it was very creative myself, actually. that again. You're stuck. You're stuck inside there. How do you mean stuck, Mr. Gavin? I mean, the victim couldn't move because something was holding him in place, Your Honor. That way, he could get stabbed without easily being able to get out of the way, no? There even was a... Then even a remote contraption could thrust a knife into his back. And the victim would be powerless to do anything about it. I suppose, but why would the victim be stuck inside the vault? To begin with. I suspect the killer to be responsible for that. Perhaps that's also the real purpose for knocking out the victim, as Miss Toom witnessed. The killer needed the victim adhered, yet alive inside the vault as part of the murder scheme. Where the victim would be stuck in front of the vault door with a murderous contraption behind them. Due to the limited view through the vault door window, the contraption remained hidden from sight outside. The idea was for the killer to be able to activate this contraption from outside the vault, and return to the staff lounge later with an unwitting companion in tow. Watch the victim die from his deadly setup. Let's see where this goes. This also that the killer could create a fake perfect alibi for themselves. I grow tired of all these mad theories of yours, Mr. Gavin. Amazed how you managed to conjure all this up from just a single contradiction. They don't call me the coolest defense in the West for nothing, you know. Coolest defense in the West? Try craziest! Are you really trying to convince us that any of this nonsense could be the truth behind this case? Especially when your theory uses such indistinct terms. You're saying that the victim was stuck inside the vault. That he was stabbed remotely through the use of some contraption. Then show us what did all that. With evidence. I do agree that you're being quite vague in your theory's words, Mr. Gavin. It does raise all sorts of questions. Namely, what exactly could cause the victim to get stuck in a place like you described? What would this contraption that thrust a knife into the victim's back exactly be? I'm still contemplating that, truth be told. But I cannot relent anymore. Pulling back now would end this trial, and my life. I can only approach this head-on. Just need to trust this hunch I have, if it's all I got. I'll have the court know that the police searched the entire casino from top to bottom by now. I can assure you that if there was some kind of knife-thrusting contraption on location, we would have known about it. Even searched outside the casino and everyone involved in this case for good measure. I must ask, if we did all that and found nothing that could suggest for Mr. Gavin's theory to be true, then how could you expect Mr. Gavin to have an answer for those questions, Your Honor? I didn't expect the police to be this incompetent under your employ, Mr. Edgeworth. You would have found the answer a long time ago if you truly did all that. I'll suggest you do a more thorough investigation next time. Excuse me? I take it you actually support that... I take it you can actually support that theory of yours with evidence, then. Goes again, Mr. Edgeworth. My apologies for my explanation being too difficult for you to understand before. I can show what caused the victim to get stuck. And I can show what this contraption was. With evidence. Very interesting, Mr. Gavin. If you're that confident, then surely you wouldn't mind the risk of a penalty this size. 50%. Alright, bet. Alright, bet. That goes without saying, Your Honor. I should never even come close to risking a penalty that size. But it should be fine. I already have an idea on how to answer what caused the victim to get stuck at the very least. Can't think it's all a random guess, I see. I'll do you a favor, Mr. Gavin. You could already rule out this glue from the safe as to how the victim could have been stuck. Yeah. Why is that? The police already searched the entire vault for traces of this super glue. That includes the vault door and the victim's clothes, of course. As you might have already guessed, we found nothing even resembling this glue. Confounded Edgeworth and his traps. So much for that idea, then. Someone, like, being super glued to the door of the vault would be kind of silly, too. At this time to admit you were bluffing, Mr. Gavin. It's clear that you were being vague with your theory before because you are clueless yourself. Au contraire, Mr. Edgeworth. Rather, it would seem I'll need an even bigger bluff on top of the one I was already making. I need to prove that this theory is viable, but I have no idea how anymore. I've only been going with this theory because it felt right somehow. What am I even doing? Now is not the time to be thinking like that. But with the flow is all I can do, regardless. Just 80% what the answer could be for now. Just take it slowly. Prove it more concretely with a bluff later. Or so I can only hope. Think! What are ways that could have caused the victim to get stuck? Perhaps another way to lock him up other than with the vault door and its key. What kind of contraption could have pushed a knife into the victim? Must be some kind of apparatus on location that the police didn't consider somehow. Must be something in the court record I could use to show what that was. Mr. Gavin, we would like to hear your answer now. Do you have an explanation as to what caused the victim to get stuck or what that contraption was? And do you have any evidence to back up those claims? Yes, Your Honor. As a matter of fact, I believe I can answer all that with just a single piece of evidence. You explain both what caused the victim to be stuck and this contraption with a single present. Inflating your ego will not inflate your credibility, Mr. Gavin. Well, whether this is an attempt at showing off or not, it still beats the presenting multiple pieces. It beats that presenting multiple pieces of evidence at once thing that was all the rage a while back. Yes, it sure does. It sure does. I love you for this. Thank you. I don't think I need more, at least. At that, I'm going a bit too overboard with trusting my instincts here. Very well, out with it then, Mr. Gavin. What caused the victim to be stuck and what kind of contraption pushed the knife into the victim? Do we try this? That would have been... The easiest thing would have been something... Available secret passageway side?
Take that!
And how could that get the victim stuck exactly? Or stab the victim with a knife, for that matter? It's only a photograph, after all. One I took of the side hall myself, at that. The object in question that did all that can be seen in this photograph. An object the victim could get stuck in, as well as something that could push a knife into him. Is that so? But, I don't think I see what you mean here, Mr. Gavin. I must ask you to point it out more clearly for the court, if you will. I know I'm on the right track. I haven't worked out all the intricacies about it yet, but, feels right. Maybe I can fill in all the blanks all along the way if I just point it out now. It'll be an immense bluff, one I'm not even sure Wright himself would be willing to make. And strangely enough, I find myself compelled to do it. Defies all logic and common sense, yet feeling completely natural in some way, other way. I will gladly point it out for you then, Your Honor. Very good, then please. What's the object the victim got stuck in and that could push a knife into his back? Is it this?
Take that!
It is. This is gonna call back to a conversation I think we had. I have vague memories of having. That, we don't really have any clear evidence to reference back to, but I feel like we've had this conversation. And we're going to cover that. Actually, we're going to reveal it first. Mr. Gavin, what are you pointing at there? Is that really your answer? Is this a joke, Mr. Gavin? I assure you it's no joke. I fully intend to elaborate on how the killer used it. Our killer was quite cunning. They looked at the unique design of the vault's entrance. A steel door with a small window giving a limited view into a dark room. The killer was inspired to create the perfect alibi for murder. They knew just what to use. The most devious contraption that was already in this side hall. Essentially, it was a small room of sorts. The window similar to that of the vault door. If you place it inside the vault, in front of the door with both windows facing each other, you would not even realize it was there for the staff lounge. And best of all, it was something that didn't look out of place in a normal hallway. A perfectly common appliance some people would occasionally use to purchase something from. Nobody would consider such a thing to be capable of murder. The killer knocked the victim unconscious, then loaded this device up. Not with refreshments that it would normally dispense, but with the murder weapon. It will, in fact, dispense death. The killer then put the passed out victim inside the device and locked its door. Next, they brought the device into the vault through the secret passage, making it directly face the vault door and placing it as close to the door as possible. And to get around the automated closing of the secret passage, the killer likely jammed it beforehand. Everything set up, the killer closed the secret passage again and went to the poker hall. Mr. Elflash was supposed to be the dealer for the upcoming poker match. He failed to show up there. As a result, the other attendees would naturally suggest to look for the victim eventually. To which the killer would volunteer to join them in that search, setting their perfect alibi in stone. The staff lounge doubled as the victim's office, making it the most suspicious place to start searching. Now the victim had hopefully regained consciousness, though the plan did not hinge on that. Here, the killer and his companion would see the victim behind the vault door window. As if the victim was only locked inside the vault itself, of course. I'd imagine the victim waking up in front of what at first glance seemed to be the vault door. Caused him to instinctively grab his vault key to escape, only for him to find out he was unable to. Help me! Someone just attacked me, and they put me inside this thing! That does make the specific wording he used make a lot more sense. This thing didn't refer to the vault, naturally, but the device he was put in. Besides, the vault is a room, not a thing. And you can think of it as a thing, but the way this particular vault is designed, it is a room. At least in my mind, it would make more sense. Like, if he was just locked in the vault, it would make more sense to just say, someone knocked me out and put me in here! The specific use of this thing makes me think, supports the fact that this is happening. It's around this point that the killer activated his contraption, setting the murder into motion. Oh my god! I just realized something ridiculous! All the killer then had to do was wait for the device to push the knife. Exactly like it would normally dispense an item. Until... dead. Now wait a minute, Mr. Gavin. Are you saying the victim was killed by a... I am, Your Honor. What stabbed the victim with the knife was a vending machine. Yes. This is so ridiculous, and yet I unironically love this.